Have you ever wondered what exactly makes a rolling handle hard to handle? In other words, can you find out some of the information about a handle and take a guess whether or not it's going to be harder from a different one? The answer is yes. There's several variables that go into this, and I'm going to be talking about this today because this is the question that was asked by Joel. If you would like to ask a question that I will answer here on the channel, all you need to do is go to speakpipe.com/Jed Johnson and you can do so. Now keep in mind, you do have to keep it to under 90 seconds because there is a time limit. But if you go to the description box below, you can click on that link, go and ask me a question, and I will do my best to answer it when I have time. There's also other links that you can click on in the description box. And if you'd like a free video that includes 8 weeks of stuff that you can do in a new grip program, then go into the comments section and put 8 weeks, and I'll get you the link where you can download that. All right, here's the question by Joel.
Hey Jed, I was originally going to ask you if you've ever used a specific rolling handle, but I might as well ask some other questions I have. So first, plain and simple, have you ever used rolling handle from armwrestlingstore.uk? And if you have, how does it compare to other rollers? And if you haven't, here comes my second question. How does one determine how hard a handle is to handle? I saw the comparison between the Menino and the LGC handle, which only had a pound lift difference. And yet, the Menino failed drop test, well basically failed, while the LGC spun for ages, so rolling time can't be a good metric. And the final question, I have a very, very small hands, 6.29 inches from wrist to middle finger, and 7.48 inches from pinky to thumb. And I'm wondering how much harder will small hands make lifts like the rolling handle and wrist wrench. I've only managed 40 something on the rolling handle and 25 on the wrist wrench. And I would like to progress, but I don't know how much of a challenge that will be. That's it. Thank you.
All right, Joel, thanks for sending in those questions. I've taken some notes here that I'll be glancing at, and I want to address everything that you brought up. So first off, you asked about the handle that Arm Wrestling Store UK sells. They have something called Rolling Thunder Style Wide Grip Training Handle Arm Wrestling on their website. And it looks like a steel handle with a steel frame and bearings. So to me, that looks like a very hard handle, but no, I've never heard of that before. Now, Joel's talking about the Menino handle going up against the LGC handle. What exactly does he mean? Well, starting in October of 2020, I did a tournament with 20 different handles to find the hardest handle in the world. And I called it the Hard to Handle Tournament. What I did was I measured all the handles, got the handle length, got the handle thickness. I also did the drop test, which is where you grab the handle or by the gripping surface and drop the frame down. Okay, so you can see that this has very good very good drop because the frame automatically drops right down. The Menino handle, you can't really say that. Doesn't move at all. Okay, so that's the drop test. And then the rolling action test, the way that works is you hold it by the frame and then you spin the handle. And as you can see, the handle spins for quite a long time. With the Menino handle, not nearly as much. Okay, so those are the handles that he was talking about. And he said that they came up to about the same performance as far as the weight I was able to lift. Well, something that you have to understand about that is the weight of the handle is factored in. And the Menino handle, I don't remember what it weighs, but it feels like it's close to 10 pounds, just the handle alone. Whereas the LGC handle is very empty, very hollow, and doesn't have nearly as much sheer weight to it. So probably the weight that I lifted, if you just looked at the loading pin and the weight, it was less on the Menino handle, but because the handle weighs more, it added a lot of weight to the total. So really, the drop handle test and the rolling action test, while they could be indicators of how tough the handles will be, I'll tell you, the actual size and the texture is much more important. Specifically with the texture, if the handle will take chalk, it's going to be a benefit to your training over whether it won't take chalk. For instance, the two best handles in the tournament, number one was the Raptor at 2.5 inches. The other one was Rolling Grip Thingy at 2.5 inches, which all the handles were right around 2.5 inches. I think the biggest handle was 2.6. But both those handles are plastic and don't take chalk very well. The Raptor does not take chalk at all. And then the RGT takes chalk slightly better, but I've always had trouble getting the wherever my thumb is going on the handle, that location to take chalk. It's just a little strip, ends up black amongst a sea of white, because since the chalk won't adhere right, the friction coefficient works out so that the thumb pulls the chalk off. And that is a very frustrating thing about handles in grip. So while those two handles ended up being the hardest handle, I think what people assumed from that is that I was suggesting everybody go out and buy Raptors and RGTs, and that's not the case. What's far more important is that you be able to get a good training effect that's realistic and actually means something using the handle. So that's my suggestion for buying handles. I know that's not really in the scope of the series of questions that Joel asked, but I always suggest some kind of a metal handle that will take chalk, will season, and then that way you can deal with the same exact texture all the time and see results. And with many handles, because they are so slick, they don't take chalk very well. I'm going to assume that the Menino handle does not take chalk too well. But honestly, I don't recall, because it's been over a decade since I trained with this with any kind of regularity. And it's been almost 4.5 years since the hard to handle tournament. I can only assume the same with the RGT. It's 60 millimeters. I don't know. It's stamped right there. But this is a really, really nice handle. I like this a lot. After the hard to handle tournament, I did quite a bit of training on this. Now, frame length is also a factor. So the longer frame you have, the higher that handle is going to sit. So it may take you out of your power position when you are training with a handle that has a frame that's really long. The Jokabug handle had a frame that was super long, and it took me out of my power position, and it just made lifting it much harder. Now, as far as texture is concerned, I do have a handle in my collection that someone told me it was a Rolling Thunder replica or something like that. This is nowhere near a Rolling Thunder replica, but this has some crisscross knurling on it. So it's going to take chalk and give you a little bit better grip. So let's look at I made notes of the questions I want to. So I talked about the texture for choosing your handle. You also have to think about the sport-specific application. So being that he was asking about the arm wrestling store, he may be using these rolling handles to bring up his grip strength for arm wrestling. And as far as I know, a lot of arm wrestlers don't necessarily train rolling handles for max weight. They use them on cable attachments. So I don't do that. I can't really speak to that. So I don't know the specifics, but It seems to me that you would want a light handle that you can maneuver, because you're not just picking it up straight off the ground. You're using it attached to a band or a cable, so you have to be able to maneuver it safely up near your face. So there's kind of an X factor if you're training for arm wrestling. Now, beyond just what the handle's made out of, what its dimensions are, and things like that, you have to remember that there are also some pretty important technique factors that go into lifting thick grip rolling handles. So if you're having trouble getting past that 40 or so kilos on your rolling handle and 25 or so kilos on your wrist wrench, I'm assuming you're talking kilos, then your technique, you may need to look into some stuff that I have on the gripauthority.com, for instance, in order to improve your technique. You may also need to change the way that you're programming your training. And I've got a lot of rolling handle stuff on the gripauthority.com, which you can join for $1 for the first month. You can get a discount for a couple months if you join using the yearly rate, and you get a coaching call if you join up for the lifetime membership. Now, as far as your smaller hands are, yeah, absolutely, smaller hands is going to be a disadvantage. So if we look at the LGC, and this is a 60 millimeter handle, and I've got 8.5-inch hands or so, I don't have much of a gap there. I'm almost touching. If my hands were thinner, then I might be able to actually touch my thumb and middle finger together. Chances are, with your smaller hands, your gap probably looks something like this. So you're dealing with a lot more open space, and that's definitely going to be harder for you. For me to have a gap that big, I'd probably need like a 3 or like maybe even a 3.25-inch handle for me to take my full grip and have that size of a gap. So either way, you're going to train pretty much the same way in order to bring up your grip strength. And I can help you out with that at thegripauthority.com. But if you're making some other technical mistakes when you're lifting on the handle, then that's going to reduce your potential power output on the handle itself. So I would need to see a video of how you're actually approaching your lifts and the technique you're using it in order to give you tips on maximizing your technique, which I also do video analysis, which you can find in my store as well. Just go to the description box of the video and you can order a video analysis. I think that's it as far as the questions. Believe me, that Arm Wrestling Store UK handle looks pretty nice, and it's only $95. It looks like it's pretty high quality build, and like I said, it's got the now I forgot the word for it, the bearings, so that it rolls even better. My question is that stainless steel? Because I think that that Menino handle is stainless steel, that or it is chromed. Both stainless, since it won't rust as well, and the chrome means it will not take chalk, so it's going to be very, very slick and very difficult. But it's a cool looking handle. All right, I invite everybody else to ask questions. Grip strength, muscle building, athletic preparation, everything is on the table. So go to speakpipe.com/Jed Johnson or hit the link in the description box. Check out the other links I've got for you for my product resources, my membership site, my ebooks, my store. All that stuff is available in the description box. Give the video one of these. Be sure to subscribe. And don't forget, if you'd like that 8-week grip training video, to put 8 weeks in the comments below, and I'll get you the link. All the best in your training. Take care.